So in the last video that I did in the first part of this series, I talked about the project that I'm working on, the reasons I'm working on it, and what the plan is. And so in this video, I'm just going to get right into the next thing, which is setting up ShadCN and setting up the server. Yeah, so let's get right into it. I won't forget to switch the screens this time. Yep, that's it. So the last thing I did on this project was setting up the client. So before you continue writing the code, I just want to review the Trello. And right here, this is the next thing to do. Install ShadCN and then the server setup. So for these like minute tasks, moving forward, I do not want to use Trello to the description of Trello. I want to move them over to Obsidian. This is where I take a lot of my notes. It's also normally where I get those tiny to-do tasks. So Trello can have like the more general tasks, but breaking down like how we have them in here, the card can be something general like project setup, creating wireframes, database schema. Then for each, there's like smaller tasks that need to be done, and so those I'll just have on Obsidian. Alternatively, I might choose to use the README file to keep track. Basically, what I just want is a way to check off like a list. It leads to a tiny dopamine hit when you check off your to-do lists. Yep. So I'll just move those three things over. Actually, just these two. And for these, this is how you set them up. So when you're done with it, you can just come over and tick it. Let me zoom in a bit. Close that. So this is what we're going to be doing for today. So for part 2, we're going to be installing ShadCN and then completing the server setup. We're also going to be brainstorming on future tasks to do. And then I'll just list them down here. But I'm going to do this as the last thing. So right now I'll just get right into installing ShadCN. For that, I will go over to the documentation. Just need to go to get started. Yep, right here. It seems there's a bit of breaking changes. So let me just confirm. Next.js 15 uses React 19. At this point, the video is forwarded, but what I'm trying to do is read through the documentation and understand what the breaking changes are that were introduced by version 15 of Next and version 19 of React. I think I'll just go with this. I don't know what effect the peer dependency issues might bring later. Whether I'm going to run into any errors. I hope I won't, but in case I do, I'll figure out how to fix it. Or should I just stick to Next.js 14 instead of rushing into React 19 and Next.js 15? Because it's still early on. React 19 was recently released, Next.js 15 as well. And so a lot of packages might still not yet be up to date, and that might cause issues. So I don't know. No, I'll just go with 15. Hoping I don't regret that decision. So I'll install ShadCN. That's the command to run. So that needs to be run inside the client folder. So I'm expecting, that question as the documentation stated. So it says, can use either, what are the, ignores and overrides any dependency conflicts, forcing the installation of packages. Legacy peer dependencies keep strict peer dependency checks, allowing installation of packages with unmet peer dependencies to avoid errors. Whichever solution you choose, make sure to test your app thoroughly to ensure there are no regressions. I'm not quite sure what to choose. I think I'll just go with the first option. There's more of a coin toss than anything. So let's see. I think I'll skip the video till, never mind, it's done. Project initialization completed. You may now add components. Hey, that's weird. There's some questions that, oh, never mind. It already figured that out. The last time I set up ShadCN, it was asking these questions. Not the registry. Yep, these and these. And also it asked about the theme. The theme to use. Why did it not ask? Oh, it's because I used the -d flag for defaults. That is New York, Zinc, and yes for the CSS variables. Okay, never mind. So I've never used the -d flag before to instantiate ShadCN. So learn something new every day. Okay, so that's why I didn't ask those questions, because I used the default configurations. Right, so let me test that everything works by adding a button. Is it going to ask me this question each and every time? Wow. I really hope it's not going to keep asking me that question. Let me see which other component I'm definitely going to need. I'll need the card. Okay. So it seems it's not going to ask that question each and every time. That's okay. So let's go back to the button. So this is default New York. I think New York is what has been installed. So I'm just going to add this to the home page. So right here, what I'm doing is going through the changes that were introduced by ShadCN in the code. The files it changed, the files it introduced, the files it added, the packages it installed, all that. So what I want you to do now is to just get rid of everything and have the button. So I need to import the button from UI. Don't need the image anymore. Have that, then run the server. Just hope that everything is a-okay. Okay. So you have the button. All's good. So ShadCN is set up, and that's pretty much all we had to do to add it. It's all in the documentation. And that's what I mentioned earlier in the previous video. Whenever you're working with something for the first time, the best place to start is not going onto YouTube to search how to set up ShadCN or how to do whatever it is that you want to do. Best place to go directly to is the official documentations, because first of all, they'll be up to date. Like any most recent changes will be reflected on the official documentations. Because if I were to go to maybe an article that was written on a certain blog or a video on YouTube and follow that to set up ShadCN, then I might run into issues because the JavaScript ecosystem is always updating. And yes, I'm going to learn something from the YouTube video, but I might run into problems because of stale information, or rather expired information. So maybe in that video, the React version that was being used was version 17, and now we're in 19. And the Next.js version that was being used was 13. So you find you're going to run into problems. So first place to check the documentations. If the documentations do not give you the solution that you seek, then you can go to that party sources. But it rarely happens that the documentation doesn't give you what you need. It rarely happens. Cool. So that's it for the first task, which is install ShadCN. And now I'm going to move on to server setup. So already, did I install Typescript? I'm not sure. I did not. I just created a Typescript file. So this file does nothing. I cannot run this app. I don't even have a script to run the app. And when it comes to setting up Typescript on a Node environment, when I was setting it up Next.js, Next.js comes already pre-configured to work with TypeScript if you chose TypeScript in the prompt. So there isn't much that you need to do to get it working. But this server, this is Express. So Express is not opinionated. So they don't exactly give you like set ways to do something. So most of the things you have to set them up yourself. And that includes TypeScript. If you want to use TypeScript, you have to set up TypeScript yourself. It's not like something like Nest.js. So the way to quickly get started with TypeScript is we need to install TypeScript. as a dev dependencies. So this is an alias, an ID, npm install -d. Then with this, I can run a command tsc init. That's going to create the tsconfig.json file. And now we're starting to get errors because now Typescript is running on this file. So to get rid of this particular one, we need to install the types for Express. You can see there right here, try npm I save dev types express. So that's something that you'll do for most of the modules, not all the modules, but most of them. When you're working with TypeScript, you have to install the types so that TypeScript, as it's checking, it can understand the structure, the types for that particular module. So I'll run an ID again, types, oops, Mr. an S there. And that should get rid of the error as soon as it loads. Yep. So now it can understand that the app is of type express. I remember earlier when I was setting this up, like the app, there wasn't auto completion, like this weren't showing up. That's because they're not installed TypeScript. But the moment you do, now you get the options. So the port, I want to update that to go from I had a hard-coded 3000 value. That is what was created earlier by Copilot. So I do not want to do that. So what I'll just do is set a port. And then this is going to come from the environment variables. Then down here, I can use the port. So if the environment variable port is not defined, I want that to default to 3005. Okay. So I still cannot run this. I need to configure some of these things. And this file that is created has a lot of things, but we don't need all of it. So we need the uncommented ones so far. Yes, module into op. Okay, strict true, skip lib. I need, where is it? The root directory. That is going to be src. The src folder. Base URL is going to be dot slash. And then is the output. Allow.js, I want this to be uncommented, just in case I have any JavaScript files in there. Output directory, I want it to go to a build file. Shall I call it build or dist? Let me call it dist or distribution. So this is what will contain our final files. What else? What else? Okay. There was another. Hi, it's Mark from the future. I know I keep interrupting the videos, and this is me from like a lot of hours. I think in the video it was around 4 a.m. Right now it's 9 p.m. And the reason why I'm interrupting this is because what you see right here on the screen is my timeline for this video. It's a bit long, 2 hours 35 minutes. That's after doing some edits, some cuts here and there. And what I'm seeing is that this is going to take a bit of time to complete with the edits. So instead of me spending all that time editing, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let the video run from here, raw, unedited, uncut. So there's going to be a lot of pauses. There might be places I mess up, and ignore all that. Okay, try to pick the actual important stuff. Okay, because editing this entire video might take a while. It might take me hours. I'm not a video editor, and this YouTube thing, I'm not doing it for as a content creator. Okay, so I don't want perfectionism to get to me and prevent me from completing or from uploading this video, which is the most important thing, that I just put it out there. Okay, so moving ahead, it is going to be raw, unfiltered, uncut, unedited till the end. All right, so bear with me. Cool. That's all I had to say. Carry on. There's another option that I cannot remember. Okay. Okay, on to remove comments. That's okay. But that's not what I was looking for. I cannot remember. I'll have to review from a different project that had set it up. There will be other things that I come later, especially the paths. The path I will come back and set up a path, because so like what we have here in the app, when we import components or any kind of module from a different file, we have this alias, the art. Okay, I'd want to have the same that points to the source folder in the server. So that's not offered by default, and you have to do some extra configuration to get that working. It's something that I encountered, or rather that I encountered a while back. And if my memory serves me right, it took a couple of hours to actually figure out how to get it all working. with like a custom import alias, how to get VS Code to use the import alias instead of the default. Let's say here we have a router. Let me just create a routes file. Then in there, we have for version 1, then index.ts out of it. Okay, then const v1 router equals router, import router from express. Let's see. Okay, then do not want to export default. I rarely export my modules as default. I prefer to use named exports. So let's say we want to get this to the sub file, right? We want every route that goes through API v1 to use require so v1 router. So when I do that, you can see this, though it's important. So I'd want it to be consistent in the server and the client as well. So using the import alias. So in that particular project where I solved that issue, I was like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Okay. And I went down a rabbit hole to figure it out. And I did, but I didn't memorize it. So I'll have to review. Let me actually check whether it's in my notes. Tech notes, Typescript. Yep. It's right here. So I did write some notes with regards to what you need to do. So I'll come back to this in a few. So right now, what I'd like to do is just to confirm that this works by running the server, actually by compiling. So I need to compile. So I'll have a build script, which is just going to be npx tsc. So when you run tsc, it uses the tconfig.json file configurations there in order to compile the TypeScript code. So I'm still going to update this later. Then want to dev script. It's going to be I want to use Nodemon, and Nodemon with TypeScript actually makes it a bit complicated. So, but for now, I can do the npm run build. So that is going to generate the ds folder with just normal JavaScript, and then we're going to chain a command there. Nodemon, that should be dist, then server.js, I believe. So let me run the build command first and see what that does. So npm run build npx tsc. So no errors. We have the dist folder, server.js, it should be okay. Then we can run Nodemon dist server.js. Oops, it crashed. Let's see. Hmm, it's weird. Ah, do I need to specify that this is from the index file? So I guess I can just use an RT. Yep. Hmm. There has to be something missing in the configurations. It's causing this. Cannot find module source. Oh, right. No, it's not a missing configuration. I don't know why it imported. Hmm. So when it imported from source routes and then v1. So the issue is that when we're in the dist, it's only supposed to import with this. It's supposed to import from the routes folder, then v1, then index. Right? But it's importing from source routes. This is not throwing an error. So I'll just remove that. So v1 router is going to be a relative path, and we run the server. Let's see whether this time, yep. So this time no errors. It's perfect. I think the issue is that I have my VS Code configured to use absolute path inputs by default, because remember I mentioned the alias. I think that's what's causing it. Let me see the settings. Uh, So Typescript. Yep. Non-relative. So non-relative is, so prefers a non-relative import based on the base URL or paths configured in your JS config or tsconfig.json. So since this is set as non-relative and we have the base URL set to be like the root folder, the root server folder. So this folder here, that's why the import, when I import module by default, so if I auto import, it imports from source and routes then v1. But if I update the settings to be, where is it? Here. If I update it to be relative and I come here and I do the same thing, so now it imports relative to where the current file is. So the reason why I had that setting like that is because of the use of the import alias, which is what I prefer. And so that I can avoid any issues moving forward, let me just set up that import alias. And for that, I'll have to review my notes. And so we install TSE alias. Let me cancel that. So it's dev dependency. So this is what will allow your compiler to understand the import alias, the @ symbol. Is it done? Yes, it is. Then set the base URL and paths in tsconfig.json. So base URL, I already set that. So the paths, let me copy. Actually, I just need to copy this one line. Then come here to tsconfig, right under this, uncomment that. Then paths, set that. The import alias. Then what else do I need to do? I think that's it for that. And update the build command in package.json to be npx tsc and tsc-alias. So npx tsc and tsc-alias. Okay, so that it can understand the aliases. And now, hopefully, if everything's done right, now it uses the @ symbol for imports. The only problem is that it is moving those imports to the top of the file. I do not want that to happen. Normally I like to have the imports from the node modules to be at the very top, and then the imports from the modules within the project that are not third party to be after those. But it's not something I'm going to look into right now. So with that, I think if I run this, it should work, hopefully. Yep, it's working. So no issues. If we check this, it understood the import alias. Now working with Typescript moving forward in the server folder, the VS Code will be able to auto import using the @ symbol. So this just represents this path, the path to the source. Okay, but it's not the same as what we had earlier, like that, because this is something different. This here is a relative path, but from the root of the server folder. Do you know that makes sense? Because we are saying just move into the source folder, then the routes, then v1. So this is not an absolute path, and having it this way in the server.ts file, we're kind of stating that from here, so when you're in the source, because the server is in the source folder, move into the source folder, then the routes folder, then v1, and in there you'll get the index file. So that is not the case. So this is better interpreted and better understood by the compiler. Right, I guess that's it for TypeScript setup. Is there anything else? Yeah, the Nodemon. I'd like to use Nodemon. But without having to build first. Because yes, this is using Nodemon. But then now if I make a change, actually, what happens if I make a change? So if I save that file, does that restart? It does not. Okay, so the only time it's going to restart is something within the server or any file linked from the server.js file. So something inside the dist folder changes. So this dist folder is completely independent of the source folder. So the source folder changing does not affect the Nodemon listener in the dist folder. So we need Nodemon to listen. When we're developing, we need it to listen to the changes in the source folder, because we're never going to be making changes in the dist folder. This will just be automatically generated when we compile the TypeScript. So for that, it requires some setup with tsnode. This is it. The day that I wrote these notes, I struggled quite a bit to actually get this working. And I'm glad that I wrote the notes, because I have something to review. So we need to install this. It's just a development dependency. So I'll stop the server, install it. Okay. Then we need to create this file, nodemon.json. So that goes inside the server folder at the root. So nodemon.json, then paste everything. Property keys must be double quoted. What is that about? Okay, don't know what that was about. A changed when I saved. I think it's just the indentation. Yep. Okay, so saving it. Pretty does its thing. Formats the file as it should. Getting rid of the errors. Okay, so now what this file tells Nodemon is when executing, you're going to use tsnode, and you're going to use the tsconfig paths to register that plugin. Then in the source, actually this should be server.ts, that is the file being executed. You're going to execute that, but using tsnode and not using node. And you're going to watch the source folder for any changes in the source folder. And when there are changes in the source folder, you run this. And you're going to ignore the spec.ts, and the files that you're going to be watching are the JS files, the TS files, and the JSON files within the source folder. So now with this, we can create the package.json, and we don't need to run the npm run build in the dev. Let's just call Nodemon in here. So I believe that will get it working. So let's see. We run nrt. Yep, was good. So right now the port that is being used is actually this, what I've configured here, because if I change this to 3006 and I run the same command, oops, we'll say that it doesn't change to 3006. That's because the environment variables are now being executed. So to execute the environment variables, we need to install .env. There's another way to get the environment variables loading, and that's by appending, there's a flag dash env dot, what is the flag? There's a flag that you add. I don't use that method as much, and so I'm not quite familiar with it. I prefer to just use .env and setting it up in server.ts. So here we can call config.env, and we can import that from, we need to install at types.env. So now it knows that the config.env comes from .env because of the existence of the types definition. So we need to move this up here before we actually use process.env. So it's in the root of the folder, so we don't need to do any manual configurations with regards to the path. And now running the server, we should see that it's going to run on ports 3006. Perfect. Anything else we need to do here? So we've already set up the routes. Well, just the main route, where we're later going to come and update this. So right now what I'm going to do is what I'm going to do is to commit what we've done so far. We've actually done a lot. I wish I had been committing incrementally. So let's commit the changes to the client. So I will undo this because this was just checking that that ShadCN works. So everything in the client has to do with ShadCN. Pretty much everything. something that has been done in the client so far has to do with ShadCN, so I can commit it all. So install ShadCN. Then for the server, what we've done so far is to set up, we've done quite a few things. We set up Typescript. Actually, all we've done is set up Typescript. The import aliases, the types, the scripts, we need to add the dist folder to the git ignore, because I don't want the dist folder being pushed. And move that over there. Go to production. So the dist folder should not be amongst the things being pushed. I think everything here I can commit it and setting up Typescript. Yeah. Then I'll push those changes later. Alright, so let me see. So Typescript, folder structure, database models. I'm already past 1 hour, so I don't think I'll do the database models right now. I think I'll or I can. It's just 4:47 a.m. I think I can go up to 6 a.m. But let's see. So for the folder structure, it is not something that I've memorized. Normally, I just set it up as I go. So I've already set up the first thing, and that's the routes. Why did it lose the icon? Yeah, that's it. Much better. I don't know, it had lost the icon. Wow. Okay. Let's see. It loses the icon when I open it, when I expand it. That's fine. So the V1 router, we're going to have all the routes in there. And for now, that's all that I'm going to add. Then the way that this works is when somebody sends a request to, let's say, so somebody sends a request to http api.domain.com or domain.com/api v1. Actually, now that I think about it, I think for this particular project, I'll have will I need to expose? I'm thinking whether I'll need to expose the API to the public network eventually when I deploy it to the VPS. In the initial setup, that must happen because the client and the server and the backend server are going to be hosted in two different locations, so you must expose the server. But on the VPS, it is possible that you just run the server, but you don't expose it to the internet, so that it's only the client that has access, that can access the server. But I think I will. There's no harm in doing it. So thinking about it, I'm going to have this kind of setup where we have the main domain. So in this case, this is going to be the nitram.net. So the root of the API is going to be this. Okay. So api.thenitram.net. And I want every to version those APIs. I'm the only one who's going to be utilizing this API. So versioning is not really like a must for this particular project. But since part of the reason why I'm building this is for education purposes, to educate you who's viewing this, in case you're a beginner, you always want to version your APIs, especially if multiple clients are going to be built using your APIs. Because in future you might update your API, and if you have multiple clients, if you just update the entire API, and let's say you have 3 clients and you only update one client to consume the new API, then the other 2 clients will be broken. They will not function because you've introduced breaking changes to the API that they depend on. So you want to version your APIs so that later on, if you're introducing breaking changes, you can introduce them in a different version, let's say version 2. So you start with version 1, then later on you have like version 2, right? And then for the client that you want to consume the new API, you update it to consume the version 2 API, and then the other clients that are still dependent on version 1 will not be affected. For this particular project, I'm not going to have multiple clients. I might have an app later, but that's like way later. I don't think for now it's worth the trouble to create an app, but I might build it later. So it's not particularly necessary for me to version this API, but I'm going to do so simply because. So on this main domain, I want whenever a request starts, so like this with v1, I want it to be routed to the v1 router, and in here the v1 router is what will handle all requests. So maybe now you have v1 router dot, then auth, then register, right? Then you probably have login. So in the v1 router, you now want to handle the auth routes, and that's what this file is for. So in index, so the v1 router, all this is going to send is a JSON with a message of silence is golden. Then I want to handle the auth, but I don't want to handle register right here. I don't want a callback function. I now want to route them to the auth router. So any requests, so this will be a request starting with so that's not what I wanted. Copilot. So this is going to be a request that's like this. So the v1 part is handled by this, then the auth part will be handled by this, and the auth route is going to be defined here. So in a similar way, so auth router equals router from express, then auth router.get, silence is golden, then auth router.post register, auth router.post login, then export auth router. So we're later going to update this to use controller methods, because I don't want to have all the logic in the routes. The route files are just for routing and not for running any logic. So now in here, I can import the auth router from at routes v1 auth. Then that's it pretty much. So now in the auth router, here, this will be a post request, post to register, and this will be a post to login. So we've seen how the request will travel first through the v1 router, then to the auth router, then to the login router. Okay, save that, delete that. And silence is golden. Anything else I need to update here? Don't think so. Okay. And now I can create the next important folder, which is the controllers. And in the controllers, we'll have the auth.ts. But the controllers are going to be a bit different. I'll have an aggregator. We'll see later where this index.ts is important. So in here, so I'll move the auth router. The auth router has this. So this is the register controller method callback. So now it's going to be an asynchronous method. I need to type this so they can actually work. So this is the register method that's going to be exported, the callback method. Then I'm going to do the same with login. I'll just copy this. Change that to login. So same structure. Save that. Then in here, so you can see it's been imported from controllers auth. So same thing, controllers auth, and that's okay. But if we have multiple controller files, which is going to be the case for us, I want these imports to just be from one file, and that's where the aggregator comes in. So in the aggregator, we're going to export all from auth. So export all from auth, and we come here to get rid of this export. Now they're just going to be imported from the controllers file. And if we have other controllers in here, we're going to do the same thing. So export all from that file. Then we'll be importing from just the controllers index file. So we save that. It's never going to be different. The get method, so I don't need to move this into its own controller. All right. So what is the next thing? Before I move on to the next thing, let me just make sure that everything works. And I'll do that with Postman. So I'll create a new collection, blank collection. I'll rename this, call it Nitram. Actually, Nitram.net. The Nitram.net. And I want to test the requests. So add request. Can be get, no worries. So there's a request to, I'll just send to the home. So there's port 3006. To change it back to 3005. So port 3005 to the home route. So localhost port 3005. Is it a get? Yes, it's a get. So I need to run the app. It's already running. Around port 3006. So let me, does it change the environment variables? Need to rerun it. So send a get request. Silence is golden. Perfect. If I send a post request to slash v1 slash of, now get request will still lock. Oops. Doesn't it get request? Well, that's weird. I am handling it. So can we get is that a case? What am I missing? Is this not? So on router. Okay, let me test the v1 router on its own. Okay, so the v1 router works just fine. Ah, because this is get, this should be use, not get. So now if we send the request to auth, yep, works. We send the request, so this needs to be a post to log in. Okay, to register. Okay, so the let me close everything else here. So this is going to be a post request to register. So save that. I'll need variables. I want to have a variable for the host, so that later when the host changes, you can change with it. Okay. So the reason why I've added that is so that because I'm going to deploy this, if I want to if I want to test the deployed version using Postman, I'll just update the value, and that will reflect in all the requests that I'll have here. It's same concept with why we use variables in code instead of hard coding things. Right, so let me commit some of that. So what have we done? So all the routes. Okay. So Typescript folder structure. Okay, we are still on the folder structure. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll just set up the folder structure real fast. What I can remember off the top of my head. What I can't remember, I'll check in a different project, because again, I don't memorize things. Some things they just go into memory because you do them a lot of times, but I don't start out with the goal of memorizing things. So now I'm going to need a database folder, and in there we'll have models, and one of the models that we'll have is the user model. So database will also have a config file. I will have seeders. The models are also have role. So the reason why I'm setting these up without even having any kind of database schema is because I just know that these two things will be there. Other things, you'd want to have a schema. And before we write the actual schema for it, we'll design the database. But I'm just creating the files right now. So database will have models, seeders. For the models, we'll also have an aggregator. Actually, for pretty much all files. Seeders as well. Plus, you want to always have a file within any folder that you create, so that it can be, even if the folder is not in use right now, so that it can be tracked by Git. So database, we have controllers. Interfaces can be a folder if you're going to separate the interfaces, but normally I just have one file with like all of my interfaces. So instead of, okay, I could just create a folder. Then in there have an index.ts. So just in case later on I decide to separate my interfaces, they're just all going to be aggregated, but I'll most likely just have them all in this one file. But in case I decide to split them, this will handle it. Interfaces, utility functions, or helpers, whatever you want to call those. Services. I might need to make requests to third-party APIs from my server and not from the client. So that's what the services will be for. I need an errors folder. So index.ts, services, index.ts, utils, index.ts. Utils. I don't know what I'm forgetting. But this does it for the initial structure. But let me confirm the different projects. What I might be missing. Let me open this particular project off screen. Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten a very important for that's the middleware. So middleware, does middleware have a plural, or is it in its plural form? So index.ts. The rest I think are see interface components. Right. So these are variables that are the same in the entire app. So they're defined in one place, exported from that module, and used all over the app. So they're just constant variables that do not change, but they're used all over the app. So they will all go in here. Anything else I need, I will add later. So let me confirm databases, models, seeders, and config. So that's okay. Routes. Okay. I let me create this file, this folder. For validation. So we're going to be validating our data against a certain schema. So the schemas for that data will go in here. And that's pretty much all there is with the folder structure. Let me commit that. So it's everything. So server folder structure. Then just close everything. All right, so folder structure is done. And now the database models. I think I can create the models for the two entities that I've added right now. So the role and the user. Because those will have defaults. I know my users will definitely have a name. There will be two roles, so the system only has two kinds of people, me and my clients. So there will be an admin and a normal user. I'll call them client. And so I can already set up those models. But let me not do that. Let me think about the entire database, because that might inform even the models, especially for the user. What kind of data do I really need from my users? So when designing the database, I'll design it the same way that I design SQL databases. So with the relationships and everything. Because when it comes to Mongo, yes, it's a non-relational database, but there are still relationships between the data. And so to represent those relationships, I'll use what's called MySQL Workbench, or rather to visually to show them visually. I'll use MySQL Workbench for that. And then implement the schemas based on that. So I'll be using MongoDB and Mongoose to give some structure to the MongoDB data. So Mongoose, because by default, MongoDB is very flexible. Like you can have one collection with very, very different kinds of structures of data. And I don't find that to be, well, good. I before using MongoDB, I'd used relational databases, MySQL, for a long time. And so my mind is very much stuck to database normalization, representing relationships the right way, and the flexibility of MongoDB. I understand it, but I just can't get my mind to accept it, right? So Mongoose gives that structure to the data, so that you just don't have data that looks kinds of possible ways in your database, in the same collection, that is. So I'll do that in the next part. It's already 5:25, and my mind's kind of tired. I don't want to think about designing the database at this moment. Just want to go to sleep now. But we've done a lot. We set up Typescript, got the server working. So the only thing is the database models. I think I'll move this to a different task. So Typescript and folder structure, then so design the database, and then database models. So right now what I'm doing is the brainstorming on future tasks to do. So design the database, then database models, then we're going to have the interfaces, the wireframes. So database schema falls under this. So create the app wireframes, and for the wireframes, it won't be anything fancy. I'm not a designer. I mean, I know how to design, but I just find it to be a lot of work. I'm full stack, but I'm backend heavy. I prefer to spend more time on the backend, getting the functionality right. And so the way that I go about my designs is in Excalibur. This is pretty much my blackboard for schoolwork. Whenever I'm training my students on new concepts, it's also where I design my projects. So it has a lot of things. Okay, scroll down, continue from here. Just make sure I went almost. I think what I'll do, I'll just export this and then start a new one. So save to disk. So this is mostly for my code stuff. It was created in August 13th. I think I'll just save it with today's date. So today's date is 29th December 2024 at 0529. 0529. Okay. So save the file, and then reset the canvas, confirm. Yeah. So the way that I design the way that I design my apps is right here. So this will be a screen, desktop screen, um, mobile screen, that way. I don't. The reason I do it this way, it's because this is as close to pen and paper as I can get digitally. I have a book. It's here that I would normally draw. Don't know that it's going to be visible. E. The webcam is set up to understand. Just a human. So it blurs out everything else. But ideally what I have here is a book, where a drawing book. I just sketch with pen and paper. And that's how I do my designs. Then everything else I just handle with ShadCN or any template UI component library. Because starting to design all those things like the buttons, the cards, the tables, the forms, if you design this from scratch, you will spend an eternity. And as a full stack developer, that's not your biggest challenge. If I was working on a project and I was just a front end developer, like my part is just the UI, then yes, because that will be all that I'm doing. But it's not all that I'm doing right now. I have to make the app actually work while still making it look good. So that I'm not just going straight into placing things anyhow. So I sketch on Excalibur, and then I almost forgot to go back to the screen. So I sketch on Excalibur, and then I translate that to ShadCN. So something like a navigation bar. I love the side navigation bars, so I would sketch something like that with the links. Mhm. Copy right here and distribute. Okay. So there'd be something like that. Then the main body content would be, let's say, right here. With something, an icon maybe, or the profile. don't have a search bar, so I don't know what will go on here. This will be the logo. Maybe notifications. I mean, it's possible to add icons here, SVG icons, but this is just a quick demo of what sketching wireframes, how I go about it. So then I'll then go ahead and now work on the main content. Then do the same thing for mobile. And so whenever I go, even if I'm using ShadCN, I'm not just blindly like adding components. I have a structure to follow. So that's how the wireframes are going to be done. After that, then I'll start with the API. So work on the backend first. Of register. Yeah, although in the beginning, registration will not be key because I already have the clients. I'm not looking to get new clients to register immediately. Eventually, but not immediately. Because ideally, all my clients right now, they're in the same apartment. They're just like a few steps away from each other, or rather from me, from where I am. And the way that I get clients is I'll just meet somebody along the stairs and I'll talk to them and I'll tell them about the internet. Sometimes it's just through word of mouth. They talk to their friends in the apartment and they reach out. I also, with each client that I have, I've set up, so there's the main SSID, like the main Wi-Fi, and then I have a marketing Wi-Fi. It's never connected, so it doesn't affect the speeds, but it's just there. It's broadcasting my number. So it's there like WhatsApp, this and this. Don't know if I can see it by open the Wi-Fi. Yep, right here. So you can see WhatsApp 0764 819176, and yeah, that's my number. Don't spam me, YouTube. For Wi-Fi. So this also helps with marketing because you can imagine I have like 20 clients in the apartment, so there are 6 floors, and I pretty much have a client in every floor except the basement. I don't have a client in the basement, but from ground floor to 5th floor, I have clients on every floor. So everywhere you go on this apartment, if you look at the list of Wi-Fi connections, you're going to see this WhatsApp, then the number for Wi-Fi. And that's also another way that I've got clients. And so the registration is not really important as of right now. So what I'm going to be focusing on more is the login. So I want my existing clients to be able to log into the app. And I don't know whether to use email or phone. Because it could be an OTP based login. It's just normal email and password or phone and password. I think I'll make it easy. Just, I'll use the phone password combination. So then for the phone numbers, I can set up the number that they normally use to pay me. Okay, so that will be the first thing. The next thing will be in the API. When it comes to making payments, I know I mentioned in the previous in part one that I want to automate the process, but there's a bit of a complication with automating the payments, in that they require a specialized collection account. So right now they just send money to my number, or they give me cash, because again, same apartment, so we meet, well, not on a daily basis, because I'm either at work or in the house doing this. But if somebody wants to pay cash, they reach out, they call, they text, they're like, yo, can I bring you cash? And they bring, or yeah, or if we meet, then they hand me the cash. So in as much as I want to automate that right now, I'll leave the automation for later, because I don't want to use a collection account. If you're Kenyan, you understand. You can look at the news and what's going on with like pay bills and tills at the moment. If you're not Kenyan, you won't get it. But yeah, there's a reason I don't want to set up the collection accounts right now. Now, eventually, what I can do is I can build an app that will just run on my phone, and whenever I get a text message from the service that receives money, that app can send the data to my server with the information of who has paid and how much, and so the server will be able to handle that. So that is the first automation that I'll set up. Then so that said, the way that I'll handle payments is I'll add the code so I'll select the client, then no, why should I be the one to do this? Actually, when a client makes payment, client will log in, then enters transaction code, and then client enters transaction code for the transaction that they've just made. So I want to be able to track the payments through the codes in future if the need ever arises, and so I need to record those transaction codes. So client enters transaction code, and then on my portal, on the admin portal, I either confirm or reject the transaction. So if the transaction was cash, then select cache. No code will be required. So client enters transaction code. So if it is cache, then select cache and no code will be required. Then on the admin portal, either confirm or reject the transaction code and amount. So if the transaction has been done through a different channel other than the number that is registered to the client, then select the number or method used to make the payment. So if the transaction has been done through a different channel other than the number that is registered to the client, then indicate the number or method used to make the payment. Sometimes clients send me money through a bank transfer, and so but even when they do, on my end I still get a transaction code. So in that case, I could be the one entering the transaction code. But if they use a different means, then they don't. So if you're watching this from outside Kenya, we have mobile banking. There's a service called M-Pesa, and it allows you to send money from one person to another, and that's how people make payment to me. And with M-Pesa, you get a transaction code that is the same both than the person who sent and the person who received. So that code is what they enter. But if they use a bank transfer, some banks will send back a message. Do they send back to the sender, or do they send to the person who has received? I don't know. But ideally, in that case, then the transaction code will not be entered by the client. So they just select that they've used a different channel other than the number that is registered to the client, and then indicate the number or method used to make the payment. Or alternatively, I could just get the client to state, like from the beginning when they first log into the system. So based on the past data that I have, because I know the clients who always pay with M-Pesa. I know the clients who sometimes pay with M-Pesa, other times with bank. So I know which banks they use, and I know the ones that use cash. So I can set up those options, and I get a client to select when they are logging into the portal for the first time. And what that will do is that it will lead to some form of consistency, so that moving forward, the client just knows that they're paying through that method. But also I'll have to account for when a client might be interested in using a different method. Should I? Yeah. I think it will be good to just, so that I don't get stuck. So a client selected that they want to to use bank transfer and then they use just normal M-Pesa. So what happens in that case? So there still needs to be that flexibility. But I'll get the app to handle all possible cases for payments. The exact way is not clear right now. But that's the thing. The solution doesn't have to be 100% clear when you're brainstorming on what you need to do. So I know what I need to do. I need to handle the different payment methods. The how, I don't know. I'll figure that out as I go. So I guess that's pretty much it, honestly. Okay, maybe I need to, so admin, that's me. I need to view client lists, view payments, transactions, have a dashboard with some analytics with regards to payments. Pending overdue. So the dashboard should be period bound and dynamic. So I can select the period that I want to view analytics for, maybe month, week, year, etc. So view client list, view payment transactions, have a dashboard with some analytics with regards to payments, pending, paid, pending, overdue. The dashboard analytics should be period bound and dynamic. I can select the period that I want to view analytics for, month, week, year, some graphs. Would be nice. So the other analytics would be analytics, payments, and payments regards to revenue and expenses as well. Yeah. I need to track my expenses because I pay so equipment purchases, I pay my provider, so equipment purchases, internet payment, any other expenses. So equipment purchases, yep. Refunds, never done a refund. I mean, not because I refuse to do refunds, but because there's never been a reason for a refund. But no. Why would somebody need a refund for this? Nope. Not going to handle that. Revenue and expenses. And also miscellaneous. So let's say miscellaneous will be maybe later when I'm setting up like the collection account. Might need to create a bank account that will require some money, some expenses. So I need to keep track of that because I want to know. I mean, the business is profitable and it's been profitable for a while, but I don't exactly have, like, if you ask me for the past 2 years to give you a solid view of how the business, the finances for the business. Okay, so this is the amount I've made. This is the amount that I've spent on 1, 2, 3, 4. So in total, this has been the profit. I cannot tell you because all I've been tracking is, has the client paid? Yes. Have they paid? No. Are they active? Yes. When is the next payment due? That's all I've been tracking. But I want to run this as an actual business, the way it should be. Because I don't want to do it. Let me go on a tangent and give the story of actually how this all started. I got internet. It was a bit fast. They had an offer. So the first package had an offer for, you take that and you get 1 month free. So you get 2 months for the cost of one. So the first initial 2 months was just for the cost of 1 month. So when I was setting up the internet, I didn't exactly need all that speed, but because of that offer, I decided why not. So I took the bigger package. And I think the same month, or maybe a month later, my immediate neighbor was like, yo, Mark, let's share, and then we can be splitting. It wasn't a 50-50 because I was already using the internet. So, and I was okay with it. I mean, I was still going to pay for that internet, whether or not she contributed. So I started like that. So at that time, it was just, I have the router. I just had that router, and so I got connected on Ethernet to her house, to a router there. So didn't even need any configuration. You just plug in the router and it works. So she was getting the same kind of speed that I was, but she was paying a bit less. But that also meant that I was paying a bit less. So fast forward, sometime later, her cousin, who's in the same apartment, same thing. Then another person, same thing. Then another person, same thing. So I got 4 clients, and with the 4 clients and the amount that they were paying each, I was able to have internet for free and be in profit actually. So the idea in the beginning was not to run a business. After I got the first client, what motivated me to even talk about it was the goal was I get free internet by getting people to distribute to. So they pay me, I pay the provider. It's a win-win for everyone. They're getting super fast speeds at like a fraction of the cost. So everyone wins, right? I have the technical knowledge to set that up, to get that going for them. They pay less. Everyone's happy. Then what happened was somebody else came. So when I got the 4, the router only had 4 ports. So somebody else came and they didn't have any ports to get them. And they didn't want to now extend from a client's router to their router, because that would have been chaotic. So what I did, I got my friend who lives on the next floor up. He also had internet from the same provider. Got him to supply to that extra person, right? So the same way that I'd done for my router. So for him, the deal was the people that I get to that I provide the internet through his connection, the payments will go to him, so towards his internet. And so I did that for that next client, and then somebody else came, and before long, the 4 ports for my friend's router were also full. So 8 clients in total. So both houses were in profit. But then now we were back to the same problem I was back to the same problem of new clients coming in, but I don't have a router. So somebody will ask me about the internet, and then I'll just tell them, just hold on for a few days as I figure it out. Because I didn't have anywhere to connect them. So I needed to hustle, and that's what I did. Coincidentally, one of the guys that had been calling to come and connect for those clients. So that was before I knew how to do that whole Ethernet connection. I'd call somebody, they would come, the client would pay for their labor, but they would do everything. They do the whole connection. This time I got to learn how to do it, and now I just do it on my own, get to pocket that labor cash. But the guy that I used to call, there were several, so some of them will just not be available at the time I call them. So I asked them for a referral to somebody else. And eventually the person that I ended up, the last person that I was calling, he'd set up, because he worked for an ISP. He'd set up something similar to what I have now. And he told me about it. So how to go about, like, which router I need to get in order to be able to manage the whole setting up the switch. I'd done a bit of networking in school, but it was not my best units. Actually failed terribly. I passed, but there's passing, and then there's actually performing. So my pass was a terrible fail for me. So I knew the concept of switches, but I just didn't know how that can be set up. And so he plugged me. He told me about it. He told me where I can get. He actually supplied the equipment. So I got the router after some time. I got the router. Because it was a hefty investment. That's why I had not done it initially. So got the routers, got the switches, got the cables, got the RJ45s, the tools, everything that I needed. And then So all the clients, the 8 clients that I had by then, I just moved them over now to that network. And what I started doing was packaging their speeds. So up to that point, they just been getting full speeds, the same kind of speeds that we were getting. So the other thing that I did, because my friend had come through for me, even though it was still business, and he was, well, pretty much getting internet for free. I connected him over to the network, so that he didn't have to go to continue paying the provider. So he got the internet for a bit lower price. So that's how I started. Okay. So the beginnings of this business were not really a business. It was just a way to get free internet. And so I've not been running it like a business, the way it should be run. And that's one of the things that I want to change. Because I don't know. I've thought severally of like going beyond just my apartment, getting those wireless, like the outdoor, what are they called? The outdoor access points, that can broadcast the internet over a long distance. So I set up an antenna at the top of our apartment and then just broadcast to other apartments as well. Because quite a number of people that do that, and it's a good business. So actually, if you're viewing this and you have some fast Wi-Fi at home and you live in an apartment setting, something you can think about. You can reach out, I can plug you to everything that you need for free. So yeah, why did I go on this tangent? Yes, it is this dashboard. I now want to be on top of everything, like to know this money that's coming in, how is it being used, what's the profit that the business has made, how can I make it better, how can I increase revenue, how can I decrease the expenses, what can I do to optimize. So I need to have that data. So this is what I'm going to start with. Then later on, I'll create an app to send SMS data for payments to my server to automate the payment process. So in this way, the payments will not even have to go through the software. Like a client will just send me money to my phone number. The app will get the message, send it to the server. Server will handle it, update the client's details, payment details, send the client an SMS that payment has been received, maybe an email. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So send the client's email receipts. For payments received. Because right now the receipt that they get is I text them, hey, well received, thank you. So that's also how I track other than the Excel. So let's say I can't access the Excel, or maybe it's been a few days since I actually updated the Excel. They're sending the text message and never delay. Whenever I get whenever I see the message for payment received, I send the client a text message. What sometimes delays is updating the Excel sheet. So that is the only receipt that they've been getting for 2 years. And it's been working. So don't judge. It's been working. But now I'd just like to make it a bit better and send maybe even a PDF receipt, other than just the email receipt, so that the clients can also have their own way to track the payments that they've done. I mean, the portal will show them. Yeah, client dashboard. So we need client dashboard. Upcoming payments. Arrears. How do you spell arrears? Think. So upcoming payments, arrears. Do I want them to see how much they've spent so far? Maybe in that year. But I mean, they can. No, I'll show them a transaction list. So transactions list. Oh my days. This video is 2 hours 30 minutes long. But okay. Upcoming payments, arrears, transactions list. So send the clients email receipts for payments received. The other thing I want to do is send SMS reminders for upcoming payments, because most of them don't need the reminders, but once in a while you'll find that one person didn't pay, and when I send the reminder like a week later, they're like, oh, I forgot. And they genuinely forget, because as I mentioned in the previous video, my clients, they good, they pay. Some of them might have delays, but they pay. So sometimes they forget. So these come in payment reminders, not spamming them. I wouldn't spam them. Maybe even just one reminder, like 2 days to time. And if that day passes, then the next day, so one reminder, so one reminder 2 days before their renewal date, and then one reminder 2 days after. 2 days after? No. 1 day, yeah, 2 days. if they have not paid. So this is not for payments, it's for payments. So one reminder 2 days before their renewal date, and one reminder 2 days after their renewal date if they have not paid. So this is not for later. This is actually something that I'll implement, not as part of the MVP, but so the MVP doesn't necessarily have to have those two. So later, so post MVP. So the MVP I just want features. For the MVP I just want these features. I get this. Oh yeah. Okay, so get this, then release it to the clients using it. Then as they're using it, I work on this because I don't need the reminders right now. I don't need the receipts right now. Can just they'll see the transactions history. I'll be able to see clients who have not paid. So the receipts are not exactly important right now. So those would be post MVP features. Then the other thing I just thought about was, so the bulk SMS that is personalized. So the bulk SMS email receipts, SMS notifications or payments received. Okay. So bulk SMS, when I need to communicate, sometimes I need to communicate to the clients. Maybe I have maintenance. Maybe the ISP has maintenance going on. Maybe there's a downtime that was not scheduled. So normally just have to communicate with the clients. And I mentioned in the previous video that I do that through sending, like it's a mass SMS, it's a broadcast, but then it's not personalized because the broadcast SMS does not give the option of like having a template that gets the name replaced. But through the system I can set that up, that if I need to communicate, I can log into my admin portal, go to the SMS, bulk SMS section, write the SMS, and where I want it to replace with maybe their name or their number or their email or whatever it is, then I can use some template strings. So something like it will be hey, then something like that, my first name. So there's going to be maintenance on the network. That's the blah blah blah. So you get the idea. So first name, when this SMS goes out, this entire string will be replaced by their first name. So let's say their first name is Jane, so the SMS will go out like that. If another client's name is Smith, the SMS will go out like that. Okay, so one SMS, but it gets personalized to each client. So eventually I'd want to automate through the system. Maybe using STK push. Maybe even introduce crypto. etc. The other thing that I'd want to introduce later is a referral program. So I actually have a referral program. Anytime that somebody refers a client to me, the clients don't know. Well, I haven't communicated to them. I actually should. But it's that I didn't want to grow. Up to this point, I've not wanted to like grow like super fast, because what happened in the beginning, I grew to a point I couldn't sustain it. Like getting new clients, I had to tell them to wait. It happened the same sometime later when I only had one switch with like 16 ports, and with the 16 ports, there's one for internet, so you're left with 15 ports. There's one for my friend, so I'm left with 14. So when I got to 14 clients and the ports are full, other clients that I got, I had to tell them to wait. So I don't want that explosive growth. And also, since right now I'm just on within my apartment, well, the people within my apartment, I can handle them. People outside, not really. So I don't want to start getting clients. Like, I already have received like 3 requests. No, I have 3 clients who have asked about me connecting them with their friends who are like way far from where we are. And I've had people from around the apartment, in neighboring apartments, reach out, because the broadcasts SSID that I have for marketing, it reaches a bit far. So I've had like 4 people reach out through this, but they're not in the apartment, so I couldn't service them. So that explosive growth is not something that I've wanted, actually, because I didn't want the stress of having to think of, this could be a client and I'm just losing out on this money. I didn't want that. At no point have I wanted this to be a burden, a mental burden for me. But where the business currently is, I think it's high time that I introduce this, because soon I'll actually be upgrading the network to be able to broadcast to other apartments. So maybe not in January, maybe not in February, but within, let's say, the first quarter of 2025. So the referral program there will come in handy, whereby existing clients, and only existing clients. So that's why it's a referral program and not an affiliate program. So existing clients can refer clients and get a commission, either in terms of, so I don't know, by the time I set this up, I'll have thought of what exactly will be the commission, either in terms of increased speeds, discounts on the payments, the next month payment, or cash. that can be withdrawn. Withdrawn. So it will be one of those things. I'm not sure yet what it will be. Or it could be a combination of all. Get the client to choose. You've referred a client, you can redeem that referral either for increased speeds, discounts on your next month payment, or if you want cash right now, maybe the client pays in the first week of the month, so by 5th, by 7th they've already paid, and they refer client on 10th. So they do the math instead of waiting to redeem that the next month, either through a discount, not either, but through a discount, then they can just redeem it for cash then and spend it on something. Because maybe they're on a salary, they know the next month they'll be able to pay for it, so they just redeem it for cash in that moment. So they choose. Others might not really need the cash, and so they choose increased speeds for the month. So yeah, it will either be one or all. So if it's all, then the client chooses one. But that's a later thing. It's not something that I'm going to start implementing right now. So I guess this is the breakdown of the tasks that I need to do. So when I get to creating the wireframes and the database models, and designing the database, I'll design the database with this in mind. I won't design the database for this or for this. That will come later when this is already out there. But I'll design, even though I'll be designing the database for these features, I'll design the database with this in mind, with these ones in mind, that later on I can extend the database to be able to handle these features without breaking anything or without requiring too much of a refactor to the app, because maybe the data structure needs to be changed up to be able to handle this. But it shouldn't, because it really shouldn't. They'll be connected, yes, but they'll be separated, if that makes sense. All right. It's 6:30. I really need to sleep, and this video is already too long, and I still have to edit it. This I don't like recording. Not that it. No, I actually I don't like it, because recording videos requires you to go back and edit the videos. I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. I'm not a video editor, so I find that process of recording, because like right now this is going to 2 hours 45 minutes. I'll have to replay the entire video to check for things that I need to cut out. And it's just tedious, but it's what I signed up for when I started this, so I'm going to do it. But first I'm going to sleep. Then I'll wake up and do that later. All right, so let me end the video here. For the next part, we'll can tick that. Perfect. So for the next part, I'll just continue this exactly as it is. I'll design the database, then create the models. Database schema and models. Well, essentially the models, since I'm using Mongoose to create a model, you need the schema. So let me just leave it on models. So then I create the app wireframes. and then start working on the back end for all this, then the front end for the same. Yep. Or should I start with the front end? No. I'll start with the back end. Create the API, then go to the front end. Or maybe there might be times that I just mix up the two. It's not set in stone. The process is not set in stone. All right. Till the next part, which is hopefully tomorrow. So I'll wake up, I'll edit this, and then after editing, post it, then do other things, then sit down, work on this tree, hopefully finish them, and the process continues. Tomorrow is Monday. I need to travel home. I think I'll travel home on Tuesday for New Year's. Tuesday is New Year's Eve. Then on New Year's there won't be any video. There might actually not be a video till this part actually, because I wanted to be done with this thing before I resumed work. Because when I resume work, getting the time for recording and editing and might be difficult. But I need to go home nonetheless. So I'll go home on Tuesday, come back maybe Thursday, then see what can be done over that weekend. Hopefully that weekend would be enough to finish everything. All right, for the last time, let me end the video here. I'll catch you in the next one. If you've watched this entire length of video, thank you. And I hope you've learned a thing or two. That's the goal, because I could have worked on this just on my own. So if you're watching this and you're learning something, then even if you're the only one, mission accomplished. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.